Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner and welcome to my review of Transformers 1. Transformers 1 is the newest animated film in the Transformers franchise, and it's the second Transformers movie to be animated since the 1986 Transformers movie. This one is directed by Josh Cooley, who directed Toy Story 4, and has the voice cast of Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, and many others. Transformers 1 follows the origins of Optimus Prime, aka Orion Pax, voiced by Chris Hemsworth, and Megatron, aka D16, voiced by Brian Tyree Henry, follows their early relationship as friends turned enemies, how they changed the fate of their planet Cybertron forever. Before I get into my review, any new viewers coming across my channel for the first time, welcome to my channel. I am Jack Benner. I talk about movies on here. I do movie reviews. From time to time, I do some lists on here. So you like movie content, you like what you see so far, definitely considering that like and subscribe button for more exciting movie content. Before I give you my thoughts on Transformers 1, I would like to give you my thoughts, minus the 1980s animated film, which I haven't seen, my thoughts on the Michael Bay Transformers movies, as well as Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts, starting with Transformers from 2007. And this is honestly the only Michael Bay Transformers movie I could get some enjoyment out of. Not great, but I think it's an enjoyable popcorn action movie. It is flawed with some awkward humor and human characters I really don't care about, and they're more the main focus than the Transformers themselves. But I still think it's got incredible action scenes, and the visual effects were fantastic, and I definitely think it was robbed of an Oscar win for visual effects over the Golden Compass. And in 2009, we got Revenge of the Fallen. Just a terrible and disappointing sequel. I don't think it's the worst Transformers film in my opinion, but I think it's one of the worst in the franchise. Considering this movie was written during a writer's strike, the story just felt like it was making itself up as it was going. The humor was even more cringy and unfunny, and oh my god, I just remember the scene where one of Sam's parents eats a pot brownie on campus and starts to go like crazy. Hey professor, I do anything for an A. God, the humor in this movie sucks. And on top of that, two of the most annoying characters in film history, Skits and Mudflap. Oh god, thank god they're one and done characters and they were in the third movie. And in 2011, we got Dark of the Moon. It is better than Revenge of the Fallen, but not by much, just still suffers from the same problems as the first two movies. It's overlong, the story is still messy. Granted, the effects are still fantastic, and the final battle is really cool, but still not a good third installment at all. And in 2014, we would get the first Bayformers movie without Shia LaBeouf, Age of Extinction. And it was that point I was really getting sick of the Transformers movies, especially the Michael Bay ones. And it is evident that the franchise was overstaying its welcome. And when I said Dark of the Moon was too long, this movie took it to another level. This was overlong. Why was this movie 2 hours and 45 freaking minutes long for no reason? It was just padding out the runtime to get to there, and it just, ugh. The performances were awful, the dialogue is terrible, my face is my warrant. Did he really say that line? My god. It was just not needed at all. My pick for the worst movie of 2014 in my opinion. And in 2017, one more Michael Bay Transformers movie, The Last Knight. And that one was by far the worst Transformers movie in the franchise that just drove me nuts. I despise that movie. It was so convoluted, like seriously, I couldn't tell you what the freaking plot of that movie was. Even if I looked it up on the IMDb plot synopsis, I was like, oh yeah, that's what it was about. Dialogue is just as terrible, the performances are awful, and a waste of Anthony Hopkins and him saying, dude, really? And thank God a few years later, he was in The Father. Fantastic movie, an incredible performance from him, but good God, what was he doing in this movie? And the editing in this movie was some of the worst editing I've ever seen. It was so choppy and distracting. The action was just repetitive and tedious. I really hated this movie so much. And I remember back then it was my pick for the worst movie of 2017. It still is. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. That was my last straw with the Michael Bay Transformers movie. After that movie ended, I was like, I never want to see another Michael Bay directed Transformers movie ever again. But a year later, when I was having Transformers fatigue, we would get a different Transformers movie from a new director, thankfully. Travis Knight, who directed Kubo and the Two Strings, would direct Bumblebee. And this was such a refreshing change of pace that the franchise needed. I really like Bumblebee. Travis Knight did a great job with this movie. It was evident how much he loved the Transformers, and it did kind of give me vibes of E.T. or the Iron Giant. And where I found the least interesting part of the Transformers movies, the human characters couldn't really care about them that much. This film, we get a great and sympathetic human protagonist. Haley Steinfeld did a fantastic job in this movie, and I love the heart between her and Bumblebee. And this would definitely be my biggest surprise movie of 2018. And in 2023, we would get another Transformers movie, Rise of the Beasts. I found that film to be a decent but pretty forgettable Transformers movie. It has its moments, but also felt like a basic MacGuffin story. After feeling optimistic about Bumblebee putting the franchise on the right track, I was interested when I was hearing we were getting a new animated Transformers movie almost 40 years since the 1986 animated movie, focused on Cybertron and the origins of Optimus Prime and Megatron, how they became enemies. And also with Josh Cooley, who directed Toy Story 4, involved, I was excited, and I still think Toy Story 4 is a great addition to the franchise. And then I watched the first trailer to Transformers 1. That's where my excitement took a dive. I did not like that first trailer. It looked like a generic and disposable kids movie with cringy humor that falls flat. And it almost looked like one of those Nickelodeon shows that made it to the big screen. Even if the second trailer was a little better, my enthusiasm wasn't very high for this, unfortunately. And then from early reactions, I started to hear very positive things about this movie. Some people saying it's the best Transformers movie, and that's way better than the trailers made it out to be. And closer to the film's release date, the more positive buzz I've been hearing about this film, I started to become more optimistic about this film. So I saw Transformers 1 opening night, open-minded. Let me just say this right now. Paramount definitely dropped the ball with the marketing and that first trailer for this movie, because the trailers to this movie didn't do the film justice at all. Transformers 1 is great. What I expected was a disposable kids movie with awkward humor. What I actually got was a funny, deep, exciting, and emotional addition to the Transformers franchise. And I am so satisfied to how great Transformers 1 truly is. And also, it just might have topped Bumblebee for the best Transformers movie in the franchise. No joke. Let's start with the pros. First, the animation in this movie, visually stunning. It is vibrant, crisp, colorful, and beautiful to admire. From the look of Cybertron, and the surface is all fantastic, making it feel so lived in and investing. And for the character designs, I actually was okay with the choices of metal faces, adding more to the facial expressions. And one of the surprising things I found about Transformers 1 was the world building for Cybertron. It is so utilized with their history and class structure, how the higher ranking are the ones that can transform, but the ones that are lower ranked don't have the ability to transform and work as minors. I felt like that just adds more interesting lore to the Transformers. The beautiful animation also serves as a great opportunity for Josh Cooley to craft exciting action set pieces. He knows how to make them very entertaining but also visceral at times, using some interesting camera placements, and there's even one great 360-degree shot in the climax that I loved. Next, the voice cast is strong all around. One concern I did have from the trailers with the celebrity voices is I thought I was just going to hear the voice actors rather than just them as the characters, which is something I can detest about celebrity voice actors these days. But here that's not the case. They actually fit their characters naturally. Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry are both fantastic in this movie. They had great chemistry, selling that inseparable friendship between the two that would later turn into a rivalry. And it was also very interesting to see them evolve to who they'll become with Optimus Prime and Megatron. While Chris Hemsworth is certainly no Peter Cullen, he succeeds at making it his own, and to see how he would later become the worthy leader Optimus Prime is. And Brian Tyree Henry does an excellent job. I especially love the scenes of Megatron building up his rage and turning to the dark side. There are even some dramatic scenes with just his face without saying a single word, and he just sells that greatly. I feel like that is a testament to Brian Tyree Henry and why I think he's a great and kinda underrated actor in my opinion. I like seeing him in movies, and also he did voice acting for the Spider-Verse movies, and he was an entertaining scene stealer in Bullet Train. Scarlett Johansson does a great job as Alita 1. She was an awesome character, but also does a great job serving Optimus's purpose here. And Keegan-Michael Key is also very funny as Bumblebee, or he also calls himself Badassatron. From the trailers, I thought Keegan-Michael Key was going to overdo his comedic shtick and get a little over the top. Luckily, that didn't happen here. He has some very funny moments in this movie. And we also have good supporting performances from actors who show up like Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, and Jon Hamm does play a pretty strong villain. From the trailers, I thought the comedy was going to be very weak and fall flat. Not the case here. Even if not all the humor lands, this is a very funny movie that had me laughing out many times. There are some humor for the kids in this film, but there are also great adult jokes too that had me laughing as well. I feel like that's also great that something kids and adults can enjoy in this film. But what I especially loved about Transformers 1 was the strong emotional core. This is actually a deep and emotional character-driven Transformers movie focusing on friendship and betrayal. And the emotional core of the film is that friendship between Optimus Prime and Megatron. It was really heartwarming to see their bond at first, but then later, as tensions start to rise once a rising action occurs later in the film, and it does give you a feeling of dread. I was like, oh no, this is where their falling out begins, isn't it? And it's not predictable, or it's like, yeah, they're gonna be enemies already. Nor does it really feel like an abrupt tonal shift. I was like, yeah, Megatron's on the dark side now. The film builds up to that moment that gets you invested. And once the falling out begins, I was scared, and it was quite heartbreaking because I loved their friendship so much. They had such great chemistry, and I really cared about both of these characters. And I was like, oh no, please don't have problems now. You two are buddies. Just no, don't do this. And it just happens more and more. And I was like, oh no, they're enemies now. Oh no. And I especially appreciated how this film doesn't forget to focus on characters first, and how this film gives essential character development to the four main Transformers before their journey began that makes it more interesting. And the depth this movie has elevates it on another level that makes it more unique and entertaining. And there was even one dramatic scene in the third act that gave me goosebumps. I was like, damn, this is hitting pretty hard. I am loving this. And altogether, this new Transformers movie was such a great blend of funny humor, exciting action, and strong emotion. Sadly, I have a few flaws with this movie. I will get to those right now. First issue is some scenes at the beginning can feel like exposition dump in the first half of this movie, where it's just like, okay, this is everything you need to know right here. Second, while this is a funny movie, there were a few jokes in the first half of this movie that did feel a bit predictable. I knew what the punchline was going to be. To sum up, I'm thrilled to report that Transformers 1 is as great as everyone's saying it is. From the visually stunning animation, top-notch voice cast, exciting action, and fantastic emotional core. I definitely recommend this movie to you if you're fans of the Transformers franchise. You certainly got a really good film here. Or even for non-fans, I think there is something to enjoy in this movie. Or like me, if you were concerned after that first trailer, it is way better than the trailers made it out to be, I assure you. And certainly one takeaway I can get from this film, with Toy Story 4 I remember being skeptical about, but I love that movie. So I learned my lesson, don't doubt Josh Cooley. I thought it would be hard for another Transformers movie to top Bumblebee, but this film found a way. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Transformers 1 4.5 stars out of 5, an A-. This would be similar to how I felt about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Trailers of the movie? Alright. Then I saw the movie, that was great. So Transformers 1 and Twisters are definitely my biggest surprise films of 2024 so far. And I really don't want this movie to underperform at the box office or bomb, because I would love to see a sequel and continuation of this movie. And Josh Cooley recently said that he is open to making more depending on how this film does at the box office. So if this film is successful at the box office, I would be very excited for a sequel to this movie, or it's most likely going to be called Transformers 2, I believe. Even with Beetlejuice making a killing at the box office and one of the highest opening weekends of the year so far, and we got another animated movie coming out next week, The Wild Robot, which looks great, and I'm hearing that's fantastic. So definitely go see Transformers 1 this weekend, and I'm very excited to hear what you think of this movie. Two things to say. One, do I think this film deserves an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Film? I think it deserves a nomination, but do I think it will get nominated? It does seem a little competitive with Inside Out 2, and The Wild Robot does seem to be the frontrunner right now. so there may be some wiggle room to get it in. Or I could see it as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem last year, where I wanted that to get nominated. It was one of my favorite animated films of last year, but that sadly didn't get nominated. So I can kind of see the same thing happening here where it might miss. So that would be a maybe for now. And lastly, where does Transformers 1 rank in my Transformers ranking? Of the 7 live-action films plus 1 animated movie, and to reiterate, I haven't seen the 1980s animated movie, so I can't really say anything about that. But if you would like to post your own ranking and include that movie, I would like to hear your ranking. So here's my ranking. Number 8 would be Transformers: The Last Knight. Number 7 would be Age of Extinction. Number 6 would be Revenge of the Fallen. Number 5, Dark of the Moon. Number 4, Rise of the Beasts. Number 3, Transformers 2007. Number 2, Bumblebee. And number 1, Transformers 1. So that right there is my Transformers ranking, and I would like to hear your ranking in the comments below again. So I would like to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of Transformers 1 if you've seen it? Do you agree? Disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you interested in seeing the film or not? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie and want to see more reviews like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here, and don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. All my social media links are in the description down below. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you want to see my written reviews, I do have a Letterboxd account, so if you'd like to follow me on there as well. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.